creator wants us to pair with these things, these men, but they smell bad. They grunt. They don't know their own strength. But still, the creator instilled this warm, fuzzy feeling. So, woman and man couldn't help but pair. I'm paraphrasing a line from one of the early episodes of Canada People's History. It was on CBC back in 2000. An Indigenous woman is telling the story of women and men. It's not a pleasant story. In fact, these men annoy the women greatly. But the creator in the Indigenous faith insists woman and man will pair, for better or for worse. The lives of women in the past was often one of scarcity, limited options. This was a harsh world where marriage was often the only path to stability. It was a top-down, often hierarchical world where men led. Not in all cases, but many. A girl would live under the guide of her father, then be married off to a strange man to have children and carry on the domestic duties. It's easy to put modern sensibilities on this time, but this was a harsh world. Starvation, disease, warfare. This is a time when the fear of a violent death was real, not a theory. In this reality came a story, the Taming the Beast myth. In Beauty and the Beast, the protagonist Belle is 17 years of age. To modern audiences, that's still a child. To the fictional setting of the film in 18th century rural France, that's a woman ready for marriage and children. This brings on potential suitors. In the film, there is the rugged, dashing Gaston. Now, Gaston has many of the qualities of a potential suitor. Rugged, rural, frontier-like, fitting for a typical man in provincial 18th century France. But Belle is unimpressed. She has different interests. She likes to read, explore. She has her own imagination. But the world she lives in has limited options for a young girl. So to society, Gaston is an obvious choice. Where the story goes into myth is the two male figures in her life, her elderly father Maurice and the Beast. The Beast is the historical move from the father's home to the strange man that now governs her life. The Beast is frightening, physically dominating. He could snap her like a twig if he wanted. He has poor manners. He smells bad, but Belle is stuck with him. She traded her father's life and she gave herself to the Beast. But over time, the Beast is tamed, slowly. He learns manners, grooms himself. She finds kindness in that beastly heart. So much so that by the end of the film, the Beast is turned back into a prince. This is not a modern story. This is an old story. This is a story of a woman with very few options in life. Taming the Beast is survival, but at times it's love. In some marriages it was. Despite the harshness of life, despite the power differences, love did happen. There aren't many examples of this story. I can think of two, Beauty and the Beast and A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen, the 1879 play. The reason is most stories are written by men from the male perspective. This is not a political statement, it's just how life was. But this myth was always there. Some form was going to take shape eventually. How and by whom was unknown, but this is a very old story from lives that were often quiet to the public eye. The female protagonist was not new to Disney in 1991. Disney has had many Disney princess stories beforehand, but they never touched this myth. It was either a male perspective or the prince was a reward. Cinderella is more of a fantasy than real lived experience. It was a lot of things, but it wasn't myth. But this story broke through. It matters not just because it's good to remember what life was like for women, but because it opens our perspective. The past was not good or bad, pro or anti-female. It was a harsh world, and a world where their stories ask different questions. Here, how to live when life gives you so few options. So in this regard, thank you, Disney.